It's recording on the web. You can go.
Okay, I'll say folks. This is a meeting of the Wellfleet Conservation Commission in accordance with the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wellfleet Environmental Protection Bylaw. We are in the basement of Town Hall. Also meeting is Wednesday, July 15th, 2026. We're going to begin the public hearings at 4 and 6. First of all, let me identify this here. Michael Fisher, John Portman, John Crumber, Bob Stewart, and myself, Barbara Renzel.
Leon is online.
Oh, and Leon Streets.
I am.
We're full committee today. Does anyone have any public comments to start? Yes.
I have one public comment. On the 23rd of June, we had in the morning, we had 4 inches of rain in 2 hours, which triggered a spawning event by spade-foot toads. And this commission has had a long issue or problem with a swamp, Wesley Swamp, behind the shops on Main Street, because it's a wetland that's being pumped by the town and has since the 1950s. And it's also a spawning site for spade-foot toads. They were spawning, in fact, on 23rd of June after that major rain event. We don't know whether or not the pump was running to dewater the wetland. They just wanted to bring that up again. This commission did a hydrologic study quite a few years ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, that showed that there was a simple remedy to prevent flooding around Wesley Swamp without pumping out the water from the wetland, which is against both local and state law. I just wanted to bring that up again. And I actually have a recording. I know we have a heavy agenda about this place.
But did you go back to it?
Well, I guess I said enough. I think we should bring it up again at a future meeting. And with the DPW, who manages the park.
Maybe it's public comments. So, other comments, the state. Okay, our first hearing is Lisa Cohn, trustee on 45 Pine Point Road, map 21, parcel 55. The owner has requested continuance to August.
So move my second. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Keep forgetting you one.
I'm easy to forget.
The second hearing is the town of Wellfleet, Briar Lane and Ryder Court Road. Notice of intent for the removal of 2 culvert pipes, installation of 3 from 5 culverts. Is someone here representing the town of Wellfleet?
Kevin is here. And Nick. Hello. You were both still muted.
All right, can you hear me?
There you go.
Great.
All right. So, hey, I'm Kevin McHugh with Conoco Engineers and Scientists. And as you mentioned, it's Nick Hebel is also here from Conoco. So if you like, I can give you a little quick just recap of where we sort of left off from the last hearing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that was, so during the last hearing, we presented the project, the notice of intent. And again, this is for the replacement of 2 extremely undersized culverts, one that passes beneath Ryder Court, and the other passes beneath, Briar Lane and Ryder Court, and those 2 culverts. So I believe during that hearing, the commission, I think, was pretty much okay with everything, but a very good question did come up during that hearing. And it was regarding flow from Squire Pond entering those 2 culverts and going down to the downstream wetlands. and whether even with replacing these culverts, if we would, once these culverts are replaced, if we would create positive flow. Because right now, there is just essentially standing water right up to the back of the box lunch. So after leaving the hearing, so I honestly hadn't been out to that site since we first began looking at this project about a year and a half or so ago, maybe a little bit more. Right after the hearing, I took a look down, went down to the parking lot at Box Lunch to take a look. And I was very surprised at how much sediment had built up in the stream, especially just from standing at Box Lunch and looking both upstream and downstream. So it was a very good question because there really, at that point, wasn't any flow going through the culverts because there'd been so much sediment. So what we had done, and we had been asked to do, is to take a look at when these culverts come in, what would be, what would be the resulting flow from there? And so we did prepare a plan, which I believe you all have copies of, and I could be glad to pull up if you'd like me to, but I think you all have copies of that.
Yeah.
Would you like me to share that?
Yeah, we have it.
Okay.
For it, once it's the-
Yep, if you all have it. So what that essentially shows is conditions, existing conditions and proposed conditions. So, existing conditions be what's there now with those small undersized culverts during a 10-year storm event. And then proposed conditions, which would be, what's going to happen, what would occur once those new culverts get put in and during a 10-year storm event, just to give you an example. And you can see from the cross section that's down the profile down the lower left-hand corner, during the 10-year storm, once the new culverts are put in, we would have a positive flow coming from the Squire Pond wetland area down to the existing wetlands that's downstream across Briar Lane and Ryder Court. So again, it was a very good question because we're not seeing a lot of flow there now. And a lot of that reason why the water is backing up is because of all the sediment that has blocked the two really small culverts that exist. So once we upsize those with culverts that, essentially meet the stream crossing standards, but we have culverts there that are better designed to be able to accommodate the flow that will be generated, we will create positive flow from that wetland area. So hopefully that answers the question the commission had.
Ask a question about that. The cross section or longitudinal section that you showed here, I'm sure your elevations are right. I just want to confirm the water level in the receiving wetland, which is Upper Poldike Creek, is actually currently lower than Squire Pond and the stream between Squire Pond and Briar Lane.
Yes.
That way, when I plan, I just want to confirm that.
Yep, it is.
Okay.
Michael,
You just bring me up to date. There was an oil spill at Box Lunch. All cleared up.
Yeah, so our understanding is we did find out kind of after the fact that I guess there was an oil spill there, and we're not really involved in it, but really none of this work would move forward until that's taken care of. So we're just hoping to get this notice of intent approved so that once that is taken care of, that this work can move forward. Our understanding is that they do have an LSP who's been working on that project, but we're not involved, so I really don't know a lot of the details of where it stands.
So you want us to approve this with that as a condition?
Sure.
Yeah, I think that would be the case for us because I think that would be the easiest way to move forward so that, like Kevin said, this project can be approved and ready to go. And we're almost kind of just sitting on our hands and feet waiting for them to kind of complete their work before we can move forward.
all right, that makes sense. John?
Given all the sediment buildup, are you planning on doing dredging as you put in these culverts? And if you're not, how is that sediment going to be dealt with?
So we would like to do sediment removal out there. We did contact, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's essentially the Barnstable County Mosquito Control. I can't remember what the name actually is.
I think it was Cape Cod, but yes.
Thank you. So they are interested in going out there to do that. So, and our understanding is they already have sort of an open agreement to remove sediment. So we would like to we think it would be beneficial all around to have that sediment removed. So we would like to include that as part of this project. But I think it would be done through that group rather than us doing it essentially as part of the project.
Big Gun Mosquito Control Project has an exemption for the Wetlands Protection Act if the work that they're doing promotes mosquito control.
Yes.
Wanted to make that clear that this has to be, for them to do it without permit, it has to be for mosquito control. You
And
can't
that,
just facilitate drainage or whatever.
And we were there on the site visit, there were lots.
I believe that they used to do it there and then the oil spill happened and they couldn't do it anymore until that was mitigated properly and it hasn't been done yet. So they haven't been back to do that sediment control removal because of the ones.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. And I talked to them on the phone, and they said they'd be willing to meet us out on site to kind of talk over the project and make sure that this is kind of in compliant with what they do. I assume that from what our conversation was, is that she basically mentioned that they've kind of been really wanting to do this work, but because of, I think the town is the one who's kind of wants to make sure that everything's cleaned up and everything's purposefully done so that there is no issues downstream or anything like that.
John,
And what happens with the sediment? How will that be disposed of?
that's something we'll have to be worked through with the LSP because we're not sure if there's impacts to the existing sediment. So that's something would have to be worked through along with as part of that whole site cleanup is how that would get handled.
Can you explain the cross section to me, please?
Sure. 1 second here.
I put it up.
Yeah, that would be useful, I think.
All right, give me 1 second. All right, is everyone able to see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So from the cross section, you can see here is the Briar Lane culvert. I'm sorry, this is actually the Ryder Court culvert. So that's a typo. This is the Briar Lane culvert, which is downstream. So here you see surface grades, and you can see where the sediment is built up down below. It's if you can see my cursor, it's a shaded sort of box down here. That's actually the existing culvert, which is, so again, this is the Ryder Court culvert, which is down below here, and it's buried in the sediment. The Briar Lane culvert is again this fine shaded line here, which is essentially buried in the sediment also. The dock line would be the bottom of the stream. So you can see how the sediment has built up at the culverts, especially in between the two. And if you stand there at Box Lunch, which I'm sure you've all seen, you can see where there's a lot of sediment built up, both upstream from Briar Lane and downstream, essentially as far as you can see. So this is the existing surface, if you will, of the stream. Here is up above is a red line. This is your existing 10-year flood elevation based on a HEC-RAS analysis. So it's well up above, floods well over the existing culverts, which are buried, so they're not doing a lot and they don't accept a lot of flow. Once these new culverts are in, and these represent the new culverts. Once these new culverts are in, the blue line would be the 10-year flood elevation. So it drops that flood elevation at the culverts down to below the top of the culverts. So we have excess capacity in those culverts to be able to pass that flow through. Then the dot line down here down below is the downstream side of the Briar Lane culvert. So the water level will level out once it gets down to in the wetlands area down below the Briar Lane culvert.
So the boundary between the non-shaded and the shaded areas is the top of the culvert proposed?
Yes. So this is the open area of the culvert,
Okay,
and this would be the top area when it gets to ground surface. The shaded is the top above the culvert when you get to ground surface.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
And please correct the Briar Lane culvert, that should be the Ryder Court culvert.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. That's a typo. I apologize for that.
No, otherwise, thank you for the explanation.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Proposed.
Often bottom almost fires, no use for another report, provided that the ones that's the. Second.
Okay, can you vote, Mike?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Neil,
Yes.
Something will be coming right.
Nick and Kevin, I will just make that correction on the plans that I already have printed for that, so don't worry about sending anything new over.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good to know. All right, the next hearing is with David. 71 Capitol Road, this project on map 41 parcel 106, I think we do multiple times. Okay, check other request to continue to once.
So. Second. Yes. Yes.
Yes,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I want to have, are we still framed? Post this at the time.
No, it might have to get re-advertised. I'll talk to the representative, but the representative did say that the homeowner has finally decided what to do, and so this was a homeowner.
In next hearing, 70 Partridge Way LLC, 70 Partridge Way, and what to apply for the road map to move to parcels 28 and 29, notes of intent. For facing plan matching.
And I'm going to recuse.
Okay, it's online. Hi, Tabitha.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. For the record, Tabitha Cagle from Wilkinson Ecological Design. I will go ahead and share my screen just so we have the plan up and can reference that. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Great. Okay, I'd just like to begin with a quick project overview from the last hearing. This project is voluntary restoration aimed at preserving the substantial swath of sandplain heathland and maritime shrubland plant communities that currently reside on the site. The project also includes management within the maritime shrubland to preserve the existing view towards outer Wellfleet Harbor. Invasive plant removal is also proposed throughout the whole project area, and that is all of the areas shown in the green hatch on the plan. But overall, the site is relatively minimally invaded with only a few species of Asiatic bittersweet, shrub honeysuckle, and autumn olive. Native plant restoration will take place where there will be slightly more invasive plant removal, therefore some more voids in vegetation after those removals are complete. And this is mostly located to the north of the existing house. So since the last hearing, we've revised the plan to reduce the number of vista windows from 4 windows to 1 window. And that window is located to the east of the house and the existing deck. You can see the arrows and the edge of vista window called out on your plan. We've also removed any reference to the pruning of the 2 mature oak trees that were on the bank previously, and these were located. We've removed that reference, but I don't know if you can see my cursor right about in this area. We are still, we've also called out that we are still proposing some smaller trees for removal within that vista window, and those are marked with an X, but we've also included the species of those trees per your request in the last hearing. And we are also still calling for the removal of seedling trees within the heathland to maintain the ongoing condition of the dense cover of bearberry that's currently growing there. These small seedlings were pointed out on site with you for those of you that made the on-site this morning. So that's my recap and an overview of the plan edits, and I will open it up to questions from there.
Okay, I have a question, because I couldn't interpret, this is more Felicia, one of our regulations, about, section on cutting and mulching, etc. There's something here about lots, and subdivisions prior to November 19th, 2003. I was wondering when this lot was developed, or recorded.
It's usually look for every single one, but I can look right now.
Because it says that, in that case, all work shall be located outside.
I'll find out. I do usually look for every single application to make sure that it's not a pre 2000 law.
While you're looking, are there, John has a question?
A question, see that the scope of the vista window is clearly defined on the plan. Is it clearly defined on the ground? So that people, it'll be visible and evident to everyone, so that the edge of the clearing can be as allowed.
Yes, it's currently staked on either edge of the vista window on site. We also had flagged those trees for your on site. We could certainly propose to mark the edge of the vista window with some conservation acceptable type of marker, whether it's a permanent wooden stake or a small stones or some other site. There really is there's no lawn or mowing or any landscaping in that area, so it's not somewhere that somebody would go into or walk into or have any sort of activity into in general. So there should be no cutting or management outside of what is proposed on this plan, but we'd be happy to put some acceptable type of marker on the edges of those windows.
I would defer to the conservation agent for an appropriate marker.
I mean, we've done wooden posts before. We've also allowed, it doesn't really matter as long as it's not creating a disturbance. So, do you want those to be visible from the deck, or they could easily put small rock down?
Not from the deck, but I think from someone moving
or walking.
On the wall. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, permanent stakes that's appropriate. Yeah. You can add that other.
It's in perpetuity, right? This was good.
No, it'll be for however long the permit is, and then if they come back and extend it. But we don't do view corridors in perpetuity. So. It's this lot was created in the 80s. Okay. Thank you.
My only other comment, thank you for reducing the number of new corridors. But you now have a gigantic new corridor that's maybe 40 degrees, I don't know, 40 degrees. That's quite a swath. I don't know that we don't have a regulation about the size of the angle, but it's usually been 20 degrees, sometimes 30. This is pretty big. I'm just wondering if there's any way of just contracting it a little and still getting your view of it.
I will, I did take the plan off the screen, but I will point out that, so this area is all in the 50-foot buffer, and some of those areas within that corridor are actually filtered by trees on the bank. So what's proposed at the top of the bank, I agree, it does look wider than it is, but it will not by any means be a wide open corridor. It's filtered by trees that are growing up on the coastal bank. that exist and won't be touched or managed.
removing some eastern red cedars and some black cherry clusters, both of which provide different kinds of nutrients for birds in the area. How are there in the area where you have existing woodland? Is there a thick cluster of black cherry there? And are there other eastern red cedar on the lots so that the removal of these is not going to make a significant impact in terms of food sources for birds?
There are trees of those species all over various locations on the lot. Just to point out it quickly, if you look at the plan to the northeast, there's 2 existing woodland areas that are kind of bubbled out with a gray hatch. And those contain pitch pines with some oak trees. And then on the bank, the coastal bank itself, as you move from the north to the south, there are pitch pines, oaks, and cedars and cherries are predominantly located to the southern part of the site on the coastal bank, and especially as you go over the property line to the south to the neighboring property, there are black cherries located there as well.
Other questions? They all need to be perfect.
Explain where they're using that.
Can you explain your herbicide use, Tabitha?
Yes, sure. So our herbicide use is really limited to cut and wipe application, where we're clipping the stem and we're dabbing the cut end very carefully with herbicide. And we're letting that affect the root systems of those species. And those root systems are not removed, they're left in place so there isn't soil disturbance and that plant dies back naturally. Any area where there's a few larger autumn olives, we would clip them pretty low before we dab that cut stem with herbicide, and we would remove that top debris from the site.
And on this site, John, I think with all the bearberry that doesn't have a deep root system, it's the better method. Otherwise, we're going to disturb all that bearberry.
Right, I'll take your word for it. Don't let this at all.
You're allowed to disagree with me.
Other than that, there will not be herbicides or pesticides, just this little swab. Anything else?
Just one comment. If we're going to, at some point, set a rule in our regulations about the maximum angle of the vista, we should talk about that because it depends on the apex of the angle. I'm trying to sort this out in my mind. What is the angle of these? It depends on where you measure it.
I tried to use contact.
Yeah, I mean, that's something for us to discuss.
Yeah, okay.
And I will say that Tabitha, people that were on site, this looks wide, but there's that. Do you remember that oak that was right on the bank? They were supposed to prune.
Yeah.
Now they're leaving that one, so they're actually getting a filter view corridor through the vegetation of the coastal bank.
I would move that we approve this project under the notice of intent for 70 Partridge Way and 125 Old Pier Road.
Second. Yes.
Pass me.
Yes.
Leon. Up to you.
Right. Thank you, everyone.
Oh wait, we're still voting.
Still voting.
Leon.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear.
Yes.
Okay.
You're abstaining.
You're abstaining. Okay. You're abstaining. 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 You're ab Okay, our next hearing is the Lord Hospitality, 6F and 28th, the notice of intent to refund funds to the same.
Yeah. Secretary go out.
Oh, that's my last act.
Yeah, your last act.
I pass this down to the secretary. Or are you still taking these? I'm not.
I'll take it.
Well, this is everything that came back. And we previously gave the Wellfleet.
Yep. Thank you, Rick.
Madam Chair, should I begin?
Please.
Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Gordon Peabody. I work with Safe Harbor Environmental. It's a collaborative environmental consulting group right here in Wellfleet. And with me tonight is Trevor Pomprion, who is a architect, and he did all the interfacing with the engineer. He was flood zone. You got to have an engineer. I'd like to take a minute at the outset here to thank the conservation agents who provided a very curious and professional informal review of our initial presentation and helped point my nose in the right direction. And hopefully I corrected my navigation at the point where the commission will be happy. This is to be kind to the owners, and they're here. I encourage owners to take part because most people don't understand what goes on with conservation commissions. And I think it's really helpful for the owners to be involved. The site is kind of ratty. There's nothing growing there really. It's just, they could rent it out as a parking spot. So one of the things that I wanted to do, because that's who I am, is to get some green vegetation in there, get some native vegetation, several different layers, starting with the ground cover and some bushes and some other things, also some pollinators, with the hopes that this material would help reseed some of the adjacent area and improve the whole area. Also, instead of the driveway parking area being just sandy, to put in some native shells there, because I believe the calcium will help contribute to to improve the value of the groundwater by modifying the pH a tiny bit. Basically, I'm choosing my words here because I'm still imperfect, but there's really essentially no change in the overall footprint. They're changing the configuration because they want to have better use of the structure, but they're in the same overall square footage footprint, that correct area. But that was important. I wanted to make sure of that. And there's two things that were added here because I'm sensitive to this stuff. It needs to be shared with the commission, and I know that I don't need help looking bad. One is that they wanted to use an outdoor space a little more effectively, and instead of just walking on sand, they wanted some permeable pavers. And the FEMA regs don't allow you to store anything under your building once you have your building up in a flood zone. So they had to get a little shed. And so let's put it as far away as we can. Check with the building department. They said put it on piles. So those are the things that I wanted to bring up. Also, we're going to make sure that we have dry wells. And I took the time to write an environmental management plan that I think has everything in it. People say I try and micromanage jobs. I don't think that I do, but this has a sketch for the dry well, sketch for the erosion control, outdoor shower.
And then there's 3 planting areas. And I tried my best to detail them so that the commission would have a sense of what we're going to do with each of them. I didn't want them to be generic. And the pollinators are more in the front one on the street. And I picked wildflowers that I believe are linkage to scale. The only exception I think might be the butterfly milkweed. I don't know that I've seen that around there, but I quite like that, and I think it contributes a lot in a lot of ways. So that's pretty much what I have to say, and I know the commission has a big agenda tonight, and I'd be happy. And Trevor, as an additional resource, reflecting the engineer on his own work to answer commissioner's question.
Barbara, do you mind if I start?
Go right ahead.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen because I do have a question about the wetland delineation, and I apologize, I didn't add it to your site summaries, but this says edge of pavement here, and this is edge of pavement right here. So I'm assuming right here is the end of the opposite side of the road. And looking out there, the edge of the pavement is the top of the coastal dune. So if that, but it shows the coastal dune farther down. So I think right away we might have an issue with the wetland delineation on this one.
Okay.
Because the edge of the resource area is at the road, and you're showing it farther back.
It's a tricky area.
So right away, I do think that we need to get that updated or have a discussion about that, because it might change some of this new hardscape into the 0 to 50 foot buffer, which our regs don't allow.
Okay. We could live with that. In fact, if you'd like, we can agree to that ahead of time, so that we don't have to come back.
Yeah, I think that would be, well, we would need to see the plan first. And there's other issues that I think we need to discuss. Like, for example, the total disturbed area on the site plan that we need done by the land surveyor only includes the dwelling and the deck, and it says the hardscape. And I asked for some extra calculations, which Trevor provided. But when I do all the math, I come up with an additional 425 square feet of disturbed area in the 50 to 100 foot buffer. And here it's only showing 215 square feet. So disturbed area includes any structures, decking, hardscape. It should include the driveway if that ends up being within the 100-foot buffer. So there's a discrepancy there that I think needs to be figured out, and all those calculations need to be on the site plan that's stamped by the land surveyor.
There's the reason I stay away from that. I trust Trevor, and I trust you.
And then the other issue is that there's nothing in the narrative that discusses whether or not the new structures meet the Wellfleet environmental protection regulations for floodplains or land subject to coastal storm flowage in 2.04. New decking, sheds, hardscape actually do not meet those performance standards unless they're done intentionally, and sometimes they won't meet them at all. So we need a narrative saying how you're going to meet those performance standards, or we're going to need a variance request in writing that you are requesting a variance from those standards.
As Trevor reminded me, the decking is above grade.
That might be fine. Again, it's
above the floodplain.
It's so again, all those things we need to know in writing. You need to explain how you're meeting the regs. I can read the regs if you want, but
I don't need to torture you for that.
But one of them is cannot cause or create the likelihood of damage by debris to other to other structures. So any new structures has the likelihood of causing debris. So that's just one of them. But so we do need a narrative explaining how you're going to meet those performance standards. Specifically the shed in the back, we're going to need to know how you're meeting those performance standards as well. How high is it going to be? Is there going to be a ramp going up to it because it has to be above the floodplain? If so, that's disturbed area that might need to be added if it's within the new 100-foot buffer.
Right.
But I'll let the commission discuss. I think I've talked about my.
I don't think there's any question that I know there's been a few other projects in the area, but I don't think there's any question that the property owners need to have some place to store their stuff. I don't know why they don't just put it under the house anyway, but I'm not running the show, and so they're gonna need a shed, and
So then you have to prove that that shed will, it will not reduce the ability to absorb or contain floodwater. So that would likely need its own dry well, or reduce the ability of the resource to buffer more inlet areas from flooding and wave action. So it has to be above the floodplain, 1 foot above base flood elevation, so that you're not increasing wave action. I mean, it can't displace or divert floodwaters to other areas. So the shed, you just need to prove that you can install it in a way that meets the regs.
Okay, is this a wave action area?
I believe, it should be on the site plan. This is an AE, but this is in the MOA, which is the moderate wave action zone, not the MIWA, which is the minimal wave action zone. So even though it's in the AE zone, it is in the high velocity side of the AE zone, called the moderate wave action zone.
That's what's chopped.
Yeah.
I have a question of Bleacher. So what specifically, I'm having a little trouble with a 50-foot setback from the resource. But could you explain where you think it should be?
Right here where it says edge of pavement.
Yeah.
That should be where the resource line, the delineation is, and then the 50 and 100 should go from there. And it's backed here from
should be from the landward edge of pavement path. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's here.
Yeah.
And it needs to be at the edge of pavement here.
The southern edge of the pavement or the northern edge of the pavement?
The northern
edge here.
See where the edge of pavement is?
Yeah,
That should be the wetland at the.
Oh, okay.
Because that's where the dune stops.
Okay. Because the road is on the
Yeah,
on
because
the dune.
this is essentially altered
Yeah.
dune, but but that should be. I'm not sure why it's down farther, but this is.
So it's a southern edge.
The southern edge of the waterside edge of the road
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The waterside edge of the road.
should be the edge of the coastal dune,
Yep.
and
50 feet.
and then we go 50 feet from there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I didn't just make this up. Our site engineer who stamped the drawing.
I know Peter Kane did it, but
Right. So do I go back to Peter and say you're wrong?
Yeah, it says here that he scaled it from Mass Mapper, which is just the aerial.
Okay.
But a lot of times what we see on site is different from Mass Mapper. That happens a lot.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is what's on site is different than Mass Mapper. And
so theoretically, if he went out and made a site visit, he'd say, "Oh yes, you're right.
Yeah.
It should be here." And then that moves our 50 and our 100.
And just so you know, you have two options as the representatives or the property owner. You can either agree with what the commission is saying and say that's where we want the wetland delineation and just put it there, or you can hire your own certified wetland scientist to do the delineation for you, which usually takes time and money.
No, I was out there and I agree. I think it's pretty clear.
I just wanted to explain that to Trevor to just so you know you don't have to do what we're saying. You can have your own.
Yeah. Okay.
I have one question about the that easement. Is that for the driveway from the other?
This is a collection of different property owners, and the easement. I believe I was told it is for the general driveway for all parties.
The easement's to access Unit 5
Okay.
which
Oh,
is
sorry.
actually on a different parcel of land. It's not part of this condominium, but they have an easement for accessing their
And
property.
what is the surface of that easement? It's gonna be the driveway, right?
It's at the moment just sand
And
and gravel. It's where they just installed the new septic system.
Yeah. We wanted to put shells in for everything.
the other thing that I want to discuss while we're here now, so that we don't have to have the discussion, at the next meeting, the dumpster and material storage. Is it possible for that to be stored farther away from the resource area behind the house instead of in front of it? I'm just thinking if a storm comes through, that material storage, it's all wrapped in plastic, that's going to go right into the water. But if we have that behind the house, then at least the house might protect that stuff from moving into the resource area.
Okay. Put it over. And in this area, Trevor?
Yeah.
That wasn't done intentionally to be destructive.
No, I know.
No.
Things happen.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? I think
Is anyone happy with anything that we did?
Yeah, the plants are good.
Yeah, I think the restoration planting will greatly improve habitat there. Yeah.
Coming from John, that's huge.
It's a butterfly wheel over the place.
The owners have been very supportive of all the changes that we've needed to make, and we kind of hope for getting this through tonight. But in reflection, I think that all the comments were correct, and I think it's really important that rather than be critical of comments, to realize they're not disingenuous, that we're all in the same boat and we're all kind of on a team. So I really want all of us to be together on what we decide. So the takeaway from this, Alicia, correct me if I'm missing something, is that we need possibly an engineer's certification for the shed.
No, what you need, all right, I'll list out what we need. We need a new site plan showing the new wetland delineation.
Right.
On that site plan, it needs to have the accurate disturbed area calculations. I'm happy to talk to Peter Kane or Trevor directly about how to calculate that. And if you're within the 50, if you're within the 0 to 50, then now you need to separate out those calculations to have 0 to 50 and 50 to 100. And then we need a narrative saying how you will meet performance standards. So not just the shed, but any additional hardscape, anything that is increased. We need a narrative explaining how you're going to meet those performance standards, or we need a variance request in writing.
Okay.
And then the commission can deliberate if the variance is acceptable.
So how long would you want if you're going to ask for continuance?
That's a good question. Trevor, what do you think?
The next meeting is August 5th with a materials deadline of July 29th. Or you could do August 19th with a material deadline of August 12th.
I'm lucky because Peter answers my phone calls. But I don't know.
I don't know how soon he can.
Do you want to go out even farther to September?
No. Why don't we go in August 19th, and then we'll be in touch with you if it needs to be changed.
Okay.
What's the materials for August 19th?
The 12th. And that way we can use that as leverage with Peter. It's fairly simple, and I think you like that.
Okay, so I move that we continue August 19th.
Yeah. We haven't really got into this, but I do think if you want to come back and move this forward, I need to be, I would like to have more of a explanation of why we moved the disturbed area from 939 square feet to 1,154 square feet. That seems a pretty big jump. So I'd like a serious explanation of why that's.
Do you know where that's from?
It's mostly due to the addition of the permeable
Right, that's.
patio.
And I'm concerned about that.
It depends on also where it fits in the new
Right,
plan.
And the new plan might be within 0 to 50 now.
right. Just keep that in mind.
Okay, so we had a motion to continue,
I'll second that.
okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you for your time this afternoon. I appreciate everyone's comments.
All right, the next hearing is Jacqueline Faust, 945 Kesley Neck Road, that 1998. John and I disclosed at the last hearing that we are colleagues with Jacqueline Faust, but that would not affect our ability to be fair in terms of looking at this post.
And I have to recuse myself.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Lisa Sprague with Flex Design. I'm here today joined with the full cast. We've got Laura Schofield from Schofield Brothers, Peter Haig, the architect, and Jacqueline Faust, the property owner, in attendance this evening. We had an opportunity at the last hearing to give you an overall presentation of the project. Several questions were raised. Mainly, the number one question was regarding the coastal bank and the coastal bank delineation. And Laura has done a significant amount of work to explain that delineation and clarify that for the commission. Additionally, the commission asked for an existing versus proposed overlay. So with the help of Schofield Brothers, we were able to get both plans and overlaid those for you in a color-coded way to help explain so the commission could better see where the proposed increase in structure is happening in this particular project. So I think those were the two main pieces that were requested for this part of the project, was really helping to better understand exactly what the wetland resource areas are, whether this was a buffer zone project or a project actually occurring on the Luzerne Bay. And then the final thing that we did was we actually pulled in the limit of work on the western side. So we did submit a revised restoration planting plan dated July 8th with showing the limited work on the western portion of the property pulled in tighter to the structure. And we can talk about the construction protocol and how we would manage the construction of that in that area. So I think the first thing to do would be to have Laura go through the coastal bank delineation.
Okay, hey guys. So what we did was what we always do, go out with a land surveyor and do a topographic survey using NAVD 88 elevation and come up with contours. And at this particular site, there's a stone revetment that runs across the water frontage here. That's on the Wellfleet further. And so the top coastal bank is the landward resource area here. We also have a VE zone seaward of the top of the coastal bank, plus the salt marsh and the coastal beach that are closer to the harbor. But what we're interested in is the top of the coastal bank. And weirdly, we don't run into this very often, but the side of the coastal bank, because this is kind of a unique situation. So the way we came up with our top coastal bank delineation was to, and I detailed this in the little report that we submitted,
in conjunction with the topography that's there and the DEP policy 92-1 for the delineation of coastal banks, and also using the technical guidance in the coastal manual for applying the wetlands, coastal wetland regulations, this is what we came up with. And so what we did was, and this is, I think, as Teresa mentioned at the first meeting, kind of a fragmented coastal bank. And so we, as I said in my report, what we did was to draw 3 transects so that we have a representation of the entire landform. So our first transect ran up this westerly portion of the bank, which is kind of your classic coastal bank that you think of. It's a steep, naturally vegetated slope that goes all the way down to the water's edge. Our second transect came through the middle of the property, and then it goes perpendicular to the contours behind the house. And when you apply 92-1 and you apply the guidance of the manual, you end up with the top of coastal bank running along the revetment, or I should say the slope above the revetment here. So it's where the you have the break and slope above the VE zone elevation, and basically in figure 2, which is what this top of the bank is represented by in the 92-1 policy, it's basically where the slope goes from greater than 4:1 to less than 4:1. So when you run your transect here, you have the top of the bank above the VE zone, and then you have this large flat area where the house is, and then you have the contours behind where the house is. And the reason why you don't have the coastal bank continuing over here or even over here is because you've got more than a minor break in the grade. This is like 40 feet or something like that before you get to where the slope continues up. And at the base of the slope in both of these places, you don't have a wetland and you don't have the floodplain. And those are the 2 criteria when you're delineating the coastal bank. You have to have a wetland or the floodplain falling at the slope. So that's what the transects show in our report. And I think it makes sense when you're out at the site too, because if you were standing, and basically what we said in the report, what I've drawn on here, is that if you go along our top of coastal bank here, which is a pretty obvious coastal bank, and you connect this line down the slope to the point where the topography starts to flatten out, and you connect it to the top of the lower coastal bank, that makes sense. Because if you're standing here and you're looking down this way, it's the steep grade, it's naturally vegetated, you look all the way down to the water. If you turn even a little bit to look this way, towards the house, when you look down the slope here, you get to the base of the slope, there's no wetlands, there's no floodplain. So I think when you apply what the regulations say in terms of delineating a coastal bank using 92-1 and the technical guidance, that this delineation makes sense. Because it is a little weird and not something that we're used to. And so I have a copy of a plan underneath where I actually just drew the line down, connecting it like I described in my report that I handed in, so you can have that for your record. But the limit of work coincides with that line. So it is a buffer zone only project. It's just kind of a weird.
I do think we need to have a plan that shows, I'm just gonna, maybe it's nice that I have my laptop because I can always share my screen now. I do think that we need a line on the plan that shows this line coming down, kind of what you drew. Which makes sense that the break in the angle would be where the coastal bank ends. But we need that on the plan so that we know that there's no alteration to a resource area. Before we were just talking about buffer zones, and now we're talking about potential alterations to a resource area. So I do think we need that to be easily identifiable on the plan itself.
I know I'm handing you this right now, but it basically just shows that line that comes right down. So it connects the top of the bank down here to this top of the bank. And it runs right by where the run peak starts to split there.
As this,
So this. That's the one.
so is that what you wanted?
Maybe we need something that shows that this is resource area. Yeah. I mean, I think it would be nice if we called out that this is coastal bank here in some way.
What are you pointing at?
I think it does it because it's all connected.
Okay.
It's top of the bank and that line connects it all. So that is one continuous line that delineates the bank.
And then is this the same as what we have in terms of where the house is located, or have we changed the limit of work here and any?
That's what Teresa said that they adjusted.
Right, yes, we've adjusted the limit of work to pull that limit of work in further towards the east so that the project is within the buffer zone only. So there's no proposed disturbance on the coastal bank with the exception of invasive species management and native plant restoration at the top of the revetment.
Okay.
So we're.
Yes.
So we're dealing with existing conditions, and I think the confusion, at least in my mind, is that if this slope hadn't been disturbed, then there would be a continuous coastal bank from, up near the road all the way down. But because was disturbed at some point, I mean, I guess this existing house was built, a big chunk of the coastal bank was excavated. Given the current existing landform, your interpretation of the coastal bank is correct.
I think that's what we have to go by.
Yeah.
We can't. I don't know what
We can't rebuild the coastal bank.
No, I know, but that's why it's so confusing, because the original landform has been so disturbed.
You know what I think helps? It helped me anyway, because the function of the coastal bank here is to protect the upland areas from storm damage. And I think the project does that. It's not disturbing the classic coastal bank to the west. We're leaving that alone. No one wants it to not be able to protect upland areas from storm damage. And to the east of that, the VE zone falls on the slope just above the revetment. So once you get to the yard area and the rest of that slope, that slope's not protecting adjacent upland areas because the VE zone falls well below that.
Okay. I think I follow.
My concern is still the expansion in the 50, which our regulations do not allow. That hasn't been addressed. The slope issues and the bank has been addressed, but not the expansion of the activity.
Second that, and I'm concerned about the fact that they've been using purpose limits. Dealing with the non-invasive plants.
So I can certainly address that. And so one of the things I believe the commission brought up was wanting to better understand where the proposed expansion was happening. So that's why we provided the overlay.
Right.
So we could take a look at that if possible next. So all the commissioners have an understanding of what's being proposed. So the red on the existing versus proposed dated July 7th shows the existing dwelling in the red area. And then the proposed dwelling is just in the gray. So you can see that the proposed dwelling is being turned slightly. So the existing dwelling is facing southeast. The proposed dwelling is being shifted and turned slightly so that it's facing south, so that it's moving away from the top of Coastal Bank that's directly above the revetment. The expansion of the structure is happening to the slope on the north side of the lot, within the 50-foot buffer zone. So there is indeed an proposed expansion of structure within the 50-foot buffer. It is moving away from the top of Coastal Bank closest to the revetment, closest to the actual water. And it's happening within the 50-foot buffer zone. So it's not disturbing any of the Coastal Bank that's acting as a vertical buffer to flood water, or that DEP policy, which this Coastal Bank is. The Coastal Bank's not acting as a sediment source. We have a revetted Coastal Bank here. So the question then is, disturbance to wildlife and habitat, and then any other of the performance standards for the 50-foot buffer zone under the Wellfleet wetlands regulations. So with that, we feel that yes, we are proposing an increase in structure. And again, going back to the original narrative, we are proposing to increase the structure by 1,035 square feet total within the buffer zone. We are proposing to remove 1,389 square feet of existing lawn and plant that out with native vegetation, in addition to the 1,947 square feet of invasive species management restoration at the top of the Coastal Bay. And I can certainly address the herbicide concerns. We've had this discussion in the past.
For the commission, I did all the math for the 0 to 50 only. That wasn't in the narrative. And so this is the 0 to 50, the changes. So there is a total disturbed area, and I think this is the concern. There's a total disturbed area of an increase of 260 square feet. But what we did is we swapped walkways with structures. There's an increase of almost 500, between the deck and the steps. That's almost 900 square feet of structure, and we took away walkways instead. So I think the hardest thing for me to wrap my brain around is, yes, maybe we only have a total change of 260 square feet, but I think 400 square feet of structure is a significant amount that we're adding. And while we might be taking away walkways, the additional structure is going to be a much larger impact to the resource area.
Mm-hmm. So again, our goal is to offset that with significant mitigation, mainly being the removal of lawns and restoration of native plantings located directly at the top of the Coastal Bank. Of course, in addition to that, we're also restoring all of the areas that are being disturbed within the limit of work. So that is in addition, but we are removing lawn. And then, of course, we do think there's a significant improvement to wildlife habitat and to the function of not only wildlife habitat on the Coastal Bank, but to its ability to provide protection from floodwaters and reduce erosion by removing invasive vegetation and restoring native vegetation on the Coastal Bank. So with that, and we did submit along with that our land management plan. That goes into a little bit more detail about the proposed restoration and how that restoration will benefit the resource area and its ability and the buffer zone's ability to better protect that resource. So we agree there is a 260 square foot increase within the 50-foot buffer zone. We have
I mean, it's the AC, so we want it on, but
I know.
We can't hear when we have it on.
I totally understand. So the sorry, where was I? I just got sidetracked. So I'm sorry, so so we feel that the mitigation being proposed for the increase of structure within the 50, there is some mitigation being proposed within the 100-foot buffer. There's a small sliver of lawn just outside of the 50, but virtually all of that proposed mitigation is happening within the 50-foot buffer, directly at the top of the coastal bank that's closest to the revetment, closest to the water. We know that that native vegetation helps not only infiltrate stormwater, but helps filter stormwater to better protect groundwater and surface water supplies. We know that invasive vegetation does not provide important wildlife habitat. We feel that, and we know that lawn does not provide important wildlife habitat, even though this is Cape Cod lawn. So we are proposing to restore that area with more vegetation. So we do have a situation where we are proposing an increase in the 50-foot buffer. There's really no place for us to increase the structure. And I think Peter can talk a little bit. The other thing that I wanted to add to this too, and we also submitted, was some of the benefits to the structure. Even though the structure is being increased, I think it's important to understand also that this new home meets the specialized stretch energy code, that there's increased insulation, that it's a universally accessible main floor, which was one of the goals and drives some of the size of the house, that there is extensive rooftop solar arrays that are being put into this house. And then we've also provided the erosion control runoff and rain gardens, et cetera. So I think that while the house is expanding, the house does not currently meet a lot of the current building code. I think with the use of solar energy, with the increased insulation, with meeting current energy codes, and also allowing universal accessibility on the main floor of the structure, that the overall structure does better protect the environment overall, and the mitigation specifically better protects the resource area than existing conditions. John?
Yeah, I mean, I think all the mitigation is wonderful, and I would hope that the homeowner would do that whether the house went over the 50 or not, because it's beneficial to the resource area generally, and that's what we should all be supporting. We shouldn't be arguing one against another. The problem I have is that you're suggesting planting, and native planting and invasive removal against structure. And I don't think they're compatible. They're not the same. I would love you to do all of the native planting you're doing and all of the invasive removal, but that doesn't, in my mind, take away from the fact that you're adding more structure within the 50. That's the issue for me. And what I'd like to know is, if you look at your plans, is there no way that you can reduce the structure in the 50? Because I really want to, we all agree we need native plants. There's no question. We all agree we need to have remove invasive species. There's no disagreement. I love the fact that you're putting solar units on this house. I think it's going to be a significant improvement to the overall environment. But it adds structure within the 50, and that's what we need to talk about.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Peter Haig, architect with the project. I'm here with Jackie.
Right here.
Hi, Jackie Faust, the owner. And a lot of this goes back to when we two of us started first talking about this project. And a couple things, I assume all of you have had a chance to visit the site, right? Okay. One of the things that I was struck by when I first arrived on the site was that when you drive into where you park, first of all, you kind of park on the road, which is not a great thing. But so we wanted really to get to parking alleys, but nevertheless, one of the things that's really very great when you arrive at that spot is you have a great view of the water. You don't look at the building, which we could have put the building right there, All right, we could have, but we decided that it would be really nice to have it be more of a feel like a one-story building, kind of like it is now. Although now it's kind of like you're looking at the rooftop, and I think you're familiar with that. So the idea was to keep it mostly on one floor. Also for Jackie's not an old person, but we all are getting there. We sort of have one-story living primarily, except for some guest spaces in the basement, essentially, and a small area above that we can for sort of a lookout type of office. But anyway, the idea is you kind of look through and down, and you keep that sense of openness. Now, one of the things to keep that openness, it meant that we sort of tucked the building, and it sort of elongated into the bank. And that we sort of felt that was, it sort of goes back to our discussion earlier about this is a unique site in the sense that the way it was altered previously, yet it remains a bit of a unique site. So we were trying to keep it mostly on one level, okay, not stacking it up. And we could pull away from that, but so that's one point. The second point was, most of the 0 to 50 that we're adding is behind the existing building. I think you can all sort of agree with that, whether you call the walkways, you know, we show walkways, they show walkways. Most of the increase in 0 to 50 was behind, and that was deliberate. We were trying to stay on or behind the existing, and I think that this diagram shows that. The other thing we were also trying to do is go more parallel with the water. But anyway, the fact is, most of the 0 to 50 incursion is beyond, is behind, and that was what we were really trying to do. We were trying to balance that off with keeping it open when you drive in, trying to provide parking for somebody who might be in a wheelchair, provide handicap access into the house, and all these other features. So yes, we have an increase. I think we agreed that we have an increase of 260. I know there's the discussion about whether buildings and walkways, but this is the way we're doing the numbers in
The
this
regs
case.
specifically say no expanded structure, so you are expanding the structure, and then it also says no increase in disturbed area, so you're doing both. And that's why I laid it out like that for the commissioners to see that, you know, we are expanding structures by almost 900 square feet. So I think, you know, I'm not sure how you guys want to move forward, but that is a significant increase against our regs. And ideally, what we would have would be a variance request in writing, so the commission can discuss the variance request and then take a vote if they're going to even accept the variance request. And then they could take the next vote on whether or not to approve the project. So
I think if we were to vote no, I think this project might be approved, is what I'm saying. Or maybe not, I don't know.
And it seems to me that maybe coming back, realizing that there is significant resistance to added structure in the 50. If there's some way you can come to terms with some reduction, then I think I like everything else about this project, honestly, but I just have trouble, well, except for the pesticides.
And just to put it in perspective, we do have another application that's expanding structure in the 0 to 50, and they're only asking for 200 square feet, and it's, you know, that's getting continued while they figure out what they're going to do. So I don't want you to think that we're singling you out. It's just, you know,
well, and I want all of them happy too. So are we talking about the 260 or are we talking about the 900 and whatever?
It's the expanded structure that won't, I mean, the 260 doesn't meet the regulations, but I do think depending on what the additional 260 square feet is, maybe the commission would entertain that, like walkways, but that is for them to determine. But the expanded structures, what I put up as that, you know, there's 435 square feet of 435 square feet of buildings, and 438 square feet of decks and steps. Those are the structures that go directly against the reg that says no expansion of structures within the 0 to 50-foot buffer. And then, there's the reduction that we're doing is walkways and walls. So, we're swapping hardscape for structure, and it's very clear that structures cannot be expanded.
I just want to point out, we're trying to enforce our regulations, and the regulations are there for a reason. And we want to be fair to everybody.
Yes, understood. And also understanding that some sites are very, have some other challenges that are difficult to overcome. One question that I have for the commission is, overall, so we can go back, we can take a look at this. I just want to make sure I understand. Is the commission saying, am I hearing you correctly, saying you will not entertain any increase in the size of this house within the 50-foot buffer?
I can only speak for myself. I'm not saying none.
Okay.
I'm saying I want to see a significant reduction, and I don't want we'll do more plantings for this. I want to say, okay, what are you doing? What kind of mitigation other than what we want is commensurate mitigation.
Right.
And plantings are not commensurate to structure.
Right, and which one of the reasons why I tried to explain that by doing this project, we are meeting current energy code. We're meeting, we're reducing.
And all of those things I think are wonderful.
Yeah, and those don't translate to any of the regs.
It's challenging because they don't translate,
we can't really entertain that because there's there's nothing about that in performance standards.
Understood. I guess when you're thinking of, the umbrella improvements of the overall project. And then the other question, sorry, it just completely escaped me. Let me take a second and see if anybody else has any questions. I just want to clarify so that we know what exactly we need to go back and undertake. I'm sorry, in the variance request, specifically in the variance request, specifics as to how we are meeting the performance standard of no adverse impact to the resource area.
No, not that. It would have to be, so if you decide to leave some expanded structure, you would have to have a variance request for that reg. I think it's 2.01.3. And that one says all the activities that are not permitted within the 0 to 50-foot buffer. We need that variance request in writing.
Okay.
And then it'll just help how it should happen when you don't meet regs is we deliberate on the variance request and then we vote on that and then we vote on the application.
Okay, understood. No, that makes perfect sense. Okay.
I have a comment.
Yes, thank you.
I'm looking through your elevation transects here. And you've taken from 92.1 this little graphic. And I've read all that stuff, which does not anticipate cuts into a coastal bank such as you see here. And it's fine to apply these, but these are meant to be applied for continuous transects such as A, which goes right up the coastal bank, not a break and slope. And in terms of the break and slope here, the top of the coastal bank down below, in my mind, goes about 20 feet too far into an existing coastal bank. And the top of an existing coastal bank does not go far enough by about 20 feet. Now, another thing. You can't connect those lines because what that would imply is you have a top of coastal bank that is perpendicular to the shoreline.
That's why we didn't connect them to begin with, but it was my understanding that the commission wanted to see that line on the plan. That's why I didn't draw it like that to begin with. But if you look at our I'm just gonna bring this up here. So when we drew transect A, we came through here and then you're supposed to keep the transect perpendicular to the slope. So that's where we drew this transect to get the, apply to this landform right here, because it's this, as we said, this bank is fragmented. So this section right here is different from the rest of the lot. And then we did a transect in the middle. And when you run the transect through from here to here, where you would, again, like the transect would turn to go perpendicular to the slope here, this is like a 40 to 50 foot section of land. So we've already had the floodplain hit the slope, and then you have a less than 10-to-1 that comes across here. And what I was saying before is when you read 92-1, well, right here, it shows that there has to be a wetland at the base of the slope. And it also shows that you have the floodplain hitting the face of the slope. And if you try to apply those figures here, you don't have that situation. The floodplain is way down here, so there's no wetland here and there's no floodplain here.
But if this is reduced, and I see no compelling reason to map this 1-foot section as top of coastal bank, nor do I see any reason why this should not be extended to be consistent with the reality of the landform here.
But if you extend this over to here, there's a break down here in the slope. So if we do a transect right here, it would come up and then go flat and then go across. And this section doesn't have the floodplain hitting it, and it has the technical bulletin talks about a minor deviation in slope.
Yeah.
And I don't think those wide expanses of flat.
No, I agree with and I actually had a meeting with DEP about this fragmented coastal bank, and showed them your transects and everything, and they came up to the same conclusion that you did, because it's altered. I mean, we have to work with existing conditions, and that's what's there. Because the bottom of that slope doesn't meet a floodplain or a wetland, and then the ratios, the angle of the slope isn't that 4-to-1, it's more than that. We can only count it. I mean, maybe it comes out to here, wherever that ratio is, but it's still, this coastal bank, which is, we all know is coastal bank, cannot be coastal bank as applied to the Wetlands Protection Act.
Well, this conveniently goes out far enough to allow for a deck. And
would you want Laura to do a transect like right here?
I included that. If you look at the line that I drew, we come out to the top of the bank, and again, I don't usually draw the lines like this either, but I thought that's what was requested. So I connected. It's more like the side of the coastal bank, I guess. It's a weird situation you don't run into very often.
But it's not the side of the coastal bank, it's going down slope of the coastal bank.
It's trying to identify the jurisdictional coastal bank on site.
Well, there's a difference between, let's call it geological reality, and the reality of trying to meet a regulation that has nothing in common with what's actually out there. That's how I see it.
I think if...
Now, you've drawn your line here. What are you calling this? What are you calling this section?
I would call that the edge of the jurisdictional coastal bank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine for jurisdictional purposes, but for purposes of reality, I think it's nonsense.
We can only enforce the jurisdictional. I don't think you're wrong about it. We all know that this is coastal bank, but we can only regulate the jurisdictional resource area. We can only enforce the jurisdictional resource area. So because this is an altered site, you're not wrong, Bob, but there's no way for us to enforce anything beyond that.
Well, and to be clear, we're calling this whole thing Coastal Bank right here. This is Coastal Bank the whole way up to there.
Except you've got a boundary line coming down here.
Yeah, and he's saying that this whole thing should be labeled as Coastal Bank. And I don't think anybody on the commission disagrees with that. It's just the regulatory resource area is only this section here. Because of the way the regs are written and
well, it's here and it's all across.
Yeah.
Well,
Isn't it the most important thing is that we have a coastal bank that functions as a coastal bank? You know, regardless of definitions and interpreting definitions, I think Laura has shown that we do have a functional coastal bank. The resource is protected.
And that's an important part of the performance standards when it comes to this project, is making sure that the stability of the coastal bank and its ability to protect the upland areas where it's a coastal bank isn't going to be jeopardized.
oh, okay. Thank you.
All right, so where are we? Are we going to continue?
We would like to request a continuance.
Yes.
Thank you to.
August 19th.
Okay.
And just so that I'm clear, is the main issue reducing the structure? Are there any other questions that are concerns that?
I'm concerned about herbicides.
Well, I'm gonna talk to them about that because honestly, I'm not sure. I'm usually going use herbicides, but I don't use herbicides in my other yard, so.
I will definitely provide, as I have in the past, the information for what herbicides we're using and specifically what plants we're targeting and why we need to use the herbicide, mainly on bittersweet, Asiatic bittersweet, yes.
I don't like herbicides either, but we repeatedly heard from various restoration consultants that there are certain species that can't be dealt with otherwise, so it's just genetic to get rid of them.
Right.
We have heard that over and over again.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it can explain.
Yes, and you know, and one detail about how we in the way and selectively apply, so we're not crop foliar spraying and we're not impacting non-target species, and I'll provide all of that information for the next.
We can have a group day to go out and clear if anybody wants.
Goats.
I have goats in Texas, but I can't get them up here.
Okay, so we've had a motion, do we have a motion?
I know that we continue the project for proposal for 945 Chestnut Neck Road until whatever we're supposed to continue it to.
August 19th.
August 19th.
Second. Michael, you agree, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Leon?
Yes.
And again, the main, we'll explain the oversight, but it's to reduce the structure. That's all you're expecting
I
that.
think that's it, we like a lot of things.
We really do like the product. I mean,
Yeah, I want you to. If I were you sitting here, I would not laugh.
that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next hearing is with Dan, is Ellery 65 Ways 50, map 9. Parcel 15, I would like to disclose that the contractor is not a son-in-law, but that will not affect my ability to rent a fair.
Your son-in-law. I was just also gonna say that, Al, these previous hearings have been bears, so don't be nervous. You just have an RDA.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned, but I would like to make just a administrative point. The owners are Dan Biddle, Sarah Reimer, and Ellery Biddle, who is Dan's daughter. So it's Dan and his wife and Dan's daughter, Ellery. The last name is Dan Biddle, Sarah Reimer, R-I-M-E-R, and Ellery Biddle.
Thank you.
And I disclosed that the Conservation Trust has conservation fiction on a neighboring property, but that will not prevent me from making an objective assessment.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Mike. So, running the project?
Yeah, so I don't want to be too redundant, but I am going to basically just paraphrase the project narrative that was included in the packet. The property suffered some storm damage by tree fall from the blizzard at the end of February. The neighbors alerted me to that 5 or 6 days later. I went, found something to take care of the tree, and then I was convinced to rebuild the deck. We want to rebuild the deck in the same exact footprint, same exact post locations, basically with modern structural requirements. The former deck was built in the early 80s. The structure was totally unacceptable. The girders were inadequate. The deck joists were inadequate. The connections to the house were inadequate. The posts would be considered inadequate. And the footings were non-existent. It was, for the couple that I inspected, was just a chunk of rubble, probably left over from the concrete pour, thrown into the bottom of a hole about 1.5 feet underground. So we want new footings in the locations of the old posts. Those would be diamond piers everywhere except for 2 footings whose proximity to the foundation require them to be poured concrete. Those would be in a non-porous concrete footing form that would be left. Other than that, everything would be diamond piers. The structure would be replaced in the same exact size and configuration, but with structural elements whose size reflects the modern building code.
Questions, comments?
So, I mean, it's not everything good. We're just replacing. It's just.
Yeah.
Deck replacement and
There's no change except to make it up.
Yeah, and the deck was a hazard in its condition after the tree was removed. So I removed the entirety of the structure. I marked the post locations. If anybody was on the site visit, those were visible with pink tape. There's also pictures included in the packet that there's basically 3 phases of pictures. One is with the tree on the deck. One is with the tree off the deck, but with the deck still in place, you can see the damage. And then one is without the deck where you can see the post locations. So I took a pretty detailed survey of exactly where everything was. I've got way more pictures than what I provided for you. I didn't want to use too much data, ink, including them in the packet. So whatever I thought was necessary is what you see included. But I did a very detailed survey as to what was there and exactly where it was. And we will be replacing it exactly where it was, with the only exception really being, I think I have to lift it up about 3 inches because I need larger girders and there's a basement entry door whose headroom I cannot block. So the deck will be elevated about 3 inches, but the shape does not change at all.
And the old deck was approved. It seems a little bit bigger than on the site plan, but it was approved. So you're replacing it as it was.
Yeah. So the original site plan, and we didn't pay to have a survey done for this because that just would have been an extra cost that we were hoping to avoid. The original site plan shows a rectangular deck with no ramp down the side, the north side of the building. The deck, as it was actually constructed, had sort of a clipped corner there. I don't know why they elected to shape it that way, but with a ramp down the north side of the building. So I would be replacing that exactly as it was.
And that was when the house was built. I looked at that.
Yeah, it was 83, I think.
Yeah, and it got a COC with the deck there. So.
Well, it seems fairly straightforward to me. I think we should accept this.
Wait, was that a motion?
Yes.
So it's a -3.
Yes.
It's a -3.
Yeah, we didn't find it as a argue with -3.
Need a second? Second?
Okay.
Yes.
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 Yes. I agree. Yes.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Alicia. I do have a bit of an administrative question for you. When can I start construction? Because the owners are.
I can see that. When the permit's issued, so what? We'll do that one first, so you'll probably get it by the end of the week and Jen will email you.
Great.
I'll do it tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Jen.
But then is there a 10-day period?
Technically, you have a 10-day appeal period, so you're at risk of starting work if it gets appealed by the butter.
10 days, puts us at the 24th.
But, I mean, get working from at risk.
Yeah,
I'll talk to you about that.
yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Do you want your whole plans? Do you need?
No. Do you guys want to reuse those?
You can read it out. Will you take the owners?
I'll take the folders out if you're not gonna.
Yeah, sure.
I hope you don't feel bad. I gave them a hope.
I always want folders.
The name for the owners?
Actually, I don't want that one.
Are they on the application? I got it wrong.
Yeah, but there was 2 locations to enter the homeowner's information, and I did it in 2 different ways because the form was different. So
Okay.
I can come in. I can come in tomorrow. Or I'll drop you an email with the exact
And it
information.
would be fantastic.
Yeah, great. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
All right, next, is Elizabeth Hayden, 157, Knowles Drive. 12 parcels, 67.
Good evening again, Teresa Sprague with Blueflex Design. Also online is Caitlin Camilleri.
I'll let her in.
Thank you. She'll be discussing the mitigation portion of the project. I'm just going to quickly go over the existing conditions in the resource areas and then the project overall. And then I'll turn it over to Trevor, who can discuss some of the details about the construction portion of the project. And then I'll turn it over to Caitlin, who can then expound upon the proposed mitigation and land management on this project.
And you just repeat, one of the plans was supposed to install?
Yes, my apologies. So several plans were submitted from the architect's office. One of them was the plan that we had already submitted with the approved RDA, which was just for the reconstruction of the existing front deck, walkway, and the existing upper level deck. And so the plan that is to be looked at this evening, or that we're proposing with this plan, is the plan PD 1.1 with a revision date of January 15th, 2026 from A-Line Architecture.
And the discarded one is the EX 1.1?
That's correct. Yes. So I apologize for the confusion. Okay. Just very quickly going into the entire property and what we're seeing on site. It's a 0.92 acre lot. Sits above the Herring River. It's developed with a single family dwelling, shell driveway, Cape Cod lawn surrounds the house, transitions into a pitch pine oak plant community with minimal shrub and ground cover layer. There is an upper story deck, as you all know, that wraps around the west and south side of the home. What we're proposing as part of this project is to build a lower level deck to be constructed directly beneath the upper level deck. And at the land management plan says the upper deck will be reconstructed in place in kind that was approved as an RDA. It's a negative determination RDA that was already before you. Resource areas on the site include land subject to coastal storm flowage. We have an AE flood zone elevation 13. And a coastal bank, again, at per 92-1, vertical buffer to floodwater, and then the associated buffer zones to that coastal bank. So the coastal bank is the most landward resource area. The property lies entirely within the 100-foot buffer zone to the coastal bank and coastal bank resource area. NHESP does not identify any critical natural landscapes or any at-risk estimated or rare habitat on the site. So as we described, the project proposes an increase, and we have some plan notes on our plan that we are proposing, resulting in an increase of 815 square feet per deck. At ground level below the existing upper level deck, of which 740 square feet of that deck is located directly below the existing upper level deck. I'll let Trevor talk a little bit more in detail about the construction protocol, but we're aiming to minimize disturbance. All of the disturbance is happening directly around the existing house in areas that are either sand or Cape Cod lawn. And areas where things are currently being, like their canoes and kayaks are currently being stored. All of the equipment will be hand tools, and the footings would be placed on diving piers. And Trevor can talk about that in more detail. So I'm going to turn that over to him and he can discuss.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much more I can add, but the owners would like to be able to utilize the ground level portion of the property better. They're already storing boats and small boats, kayaks and paddleboards and things, and want a better way to store that and utilize that lower level of the property. So the proposal is to construct a deck that essentially just falls in the shadow of the existing upper deck. It's not the exact same footprint, but it's quite close. And we will, where we can, utilize the existing posts and the existing footings to attach the new deck to. Where we need to install additional footings, we'll use diamond piers, so there won't be any concrete or excavation. The deck is going to be mostly at grade, just a bit above grade. There's just a corner of it where we'll have to have a railing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what I should point out and clarify is that the entire property, or virtually the entire property, is located within the 50-foot buffer zone to the top of coastal bank, based on the coastal bank being the vertical buffer to floodwater per that DEP policy 92-1 that we just discussed in a lot of detail. So the proposed structure is entirely within the footprint of the existing structure, with the exception of some small area where there's going to be access to get up onto that lower level deck on the east side of the house. I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin, who can then discuss what we're proposing to do as far as land management and mitigation.
Great. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this property is pretty well vegetated as a mature pitch pine oak plant community. Surrounding the house is modest Cape Cod lawn, and the area to the northwest of the lot has been historically maintained to allow for a view to the Herring River from that upper deck. What we've observed on the site as far as invasive species goes is mostly bittersweet shrub honeysuckle and vine honeysuckle, and they're more prevalent kind of between the Cape Cod lawn and the edge of the woodland, going in about 20 feet to the edge of woodland, into the woodland. And so what we're proposing to do for mitigation is reduce the amount of Cape Cod lawn to kind of create more of a vegetated buffer strip, if you would, along the along the forested edge, to enhance wildlife value and the biodiversity of plant species. We're also going to remove invasive species as well and restore them with native vegetation. And in that historically maintained view corridor, we are proposing to have an official view corridor and replant that area with appropriately sized vegetation, so to reduce the continual disturbance or desire for disturbance, to have a small view to the Herring River. In total on the property, we're proposing 6,398 square feet of invasive removal and native plant restoration, which will enhance the health, biodiversity, and resilience of this site. And I'm happy to answer questions you may have about that. Thank you.
Michael?
So going back to this historically maintained Vista corridor, was that ever approved?
I don't believe so.
No, we don't have any permits for it.
So that's after the fact Vista clearing?
So Elizabeth Tiemann, the owner of this house, inherited this property from her parents who have recently passed. And so I believe that when we say historically managed Vista corridor, I'm not sure exactly when this house was constructed, but my we say that it's not something that's happened recently. This would have been something that was maintained probably before the Wellfleet's wetlands regulation and even the Wetlands Protection Act. So they have just been maintaining a small area. There are oaks in there that have been cut and they've been continued to be cut and topped. They are not in healthy condition. There's no possibility of them regenerating into canopy-sized trees. We understand that the family has been maintaining views to the river in this one area for decades. And so we are proposing now to formalize it on the plan with the Conservation Commission here today and then revegetate it in such a way that nobody has to prune in the future to maintain that view to the river. So that's what we're proposing today.
How many trees will be removed in this?
There are no trees to be removed. There are some oak stumps that are resprouting. And
Oak, I thought they were pine.
The resprouting, I think, is oak in the view corridor. Caitlin, do you?
I do
Yes,
have a question about. I do have a question about the view corridor when we were on site. It was difficult to determine if the pruning and the unpermitted view corridor work was actually on their property or if it was across the property line into National Seashore. So I do think we might want to get the location of those on the plan.
Sure.
Because I want to make sure that we're not permitting work that's on another property.
Of course, yes. We're following the property lines shown on the survey, which was provided by Peter Kane, which we submitted to you as well. But we can certainly make sure that that property line is staked and the view corridor is clear so that we know that where we're proposing to do the management work is on the Tiemann's property.
Thank you.
Is the boundary on the mitigation plan that we're looking at?
It is, so it's also, so we're showing the boundary and there is no, it doesn't look like there was any concrete bound found. There's just where we have proposed view corridor, there's the edge that hits, it's just shown in a light black line. The property line, which runs right up to Weston Knoll Drive, and then runs from there to the west, corners out at the Cape Cod National Seashore, and then runs south.
I think it is just because of the slope of the angle, but we definitely talked about it on site there. So if we could just be clear, even if you notate them on the plan where they are, then you know we don't necessarily need anything in the field.
I'm asking because I'm pretty sure that the boundary is at the foot of the hill.
At the foot of the hill on the northwest corner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what he's showing at the foot of the hill on the northwest corner. I don't see any concrete bound found, but based on his markings that
it goes down to the northeast there, there's a series of bounds.
On the
maybe they weren't recovered this time.
Okay. Well, I'll confirm that with Peter.
There's still the issue of the increased structure. With the bodies and
along those if I may. So on the one flight up on the upper deck, there's an area that says covered storage. I'm not sure what's meant by that. Is that an enclosed structure? Is that an open structure with a roof?
You're looking at the EX 1.1, the existing second floor plan?
Not TD 1.1, where it says, second floor plan existing. There isn't one. It's not covered in the existing.
That we just rebuilt that upper deck. We didn't rebuild it. We redecked it and re-railinged it.
Right.
With permission from you guys
right.
a few months ago. And in the process of doing that, we removed that covered storage. That covered storage was essentially a plywood box at the same height as the railing, 3 feet high, that had like a rubber cap on it. And it's the previous owners' parents, I think, probably stored, like cushions for chairs or something in there. Okay. They weren't using it. And it had kind of fallen into disrepair. So it came out when we took the railings out, and we took the decking out, and we just didn't put it back.
Is it going back?
No, we're done with that upper deck. It's got a railing on it.
But it's on, okay.
It's on these, well.
So then this needs to be adjusted to remove that covered storage?
I suppose, yes. This was the existing plan before we redid the decking, and
You might be able to pull out a reduction.
Previous existing storage.
Yeah, you might get some credit for a reduction of structure by.
I mean, it's still a deck.
Yeah, but it doesn't have a.
It does not.
Roof. Yeah, so.
No, it never had a roof. It was only 3 feet high to begin with, but.
Okay, and then in terms of the storage area on the first layer under proposed, it has a solid wall around it. Is that going to be a separate room, or is that just
It's going to be a deck with a solid wall around it and a rubber roof over it so that they can store stuff in there that they don't want to get wet or stolen when they're not on the property.
But it's under the kitchen along that.
Yeah.
So it's like a shed essentially underneath there?
Yes. Yeah, it's mostly underneath the second floor overhangs there.
Right.
And it's mostly underneath that.
So that would qualify as expanded structure. The new, it has a roof, it's expanded structure there.
Some portion of it would, I suppose, but not all of it, because 3/4 of it is underneath that existing structure.
Your expanded structure is expanded structure. It's whether it's below. You're talking about just there's two separate regs. One is disturbed area, and one is prohibited activity. Disturbed area applies to all of the buffer zones, but the prohibited activity within the 0 to 50-foot filter strip says prohibited activity C is expansion of existing structures, including but not limited to homes, buildings, garages, decks, and sheds. They're expanding the structure.
You're going from an open ground to something with a deck and a roof. Right.
I guess it already has a roof because the kitchen
Well,
is.
part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of it does, but not all of it.
Most of it does.
Already have a roof. It's already a second floor kitchen.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we're really
those two dotted lines, I think, show what's not yet covered, and it will be covered. Because you have roof over storage area under the existing, right next to the kitchen. On PD 1.1, the existing second floor plan roof over storage area next to the kitchen. Yeah, it was a little confusing on the site, exactly what is existing and what wasn't.
Yeah, I don't argue that it's not a bit.
I don't think anything
There
was
are a
staked
lot
out
of
there.
overlapping.
It wasn't staked.
Was it staked? I don't think it was staked.
Okay.
No, it wasn't staked. And then just a couple of other things to go over.
Yes.
The narrative says a minor increase of structure to the upper deck, but that's not quantified anywhere.
There's no increase to the upper deck. I think that there was some confusion with what was previously approved under the RDA. So there's no increase to the upper level deck. This project is only the lower portion of the deck.
Okay, so we should get that
We'll clarify
updated.
that. Yes.
And then the site plan doesn't have the ACEC on it or the total disturbed area.
We just discussed that. I just discussed that with Trevor based on the information. So we'll be in touch with Peter King to get both of those pieces of the information. So we need the total disturbed area. I guess one of
for this one, the total disturbed area may not change because you're doing all the work beneath what exists, which is fine.
the disturbed area.
But we just need to know now that it's in the regs. A lot of that started in 2003. We're making it go on every site plan so that we have historically what was there.
Yes.
And then just if you explain to me, for the lower level, for the proposed, you're going to put decking down. There are kayaks on the, I guess it would be on the toward the riverside, stored there now. Those are going to be moved into the storage. In other words, you're turning open ground with kayak rack on it. Is now been decked over. Well, what's gonna happen to to that kayak rack? Is that gonna be on top of the deck?
The kayak rack will probably be eliminated and the kayaks will be stored in that enclosed storage area underneath the kitchen and ring. That's the purpose of that storage area.
Okay. Because that wasn't.
The 12 feet, wasn't any of them longer? I wonder if they're. I think what Michael is getting at is that we want to make sure that this deck doesn't displace those boats elsewhere, because that'll create new disturbed area.
Yes.
If anything, if they weren't stored in the storage area, they would just be stored on the deck.
So that would be a condition, that there can be no storage of anything outside of the footprint of
Yeah,
this.
understood. That's fine. Yep.
Okay. That's helpful.
Any other questions, comments? Demetria?
I have another one, just about the mitigation. This property is fully within the 0 to 50, so well, the majority of this is all native plants. There's that one area with the sweet bay magnolia and the foam flower that's not native species. According to what we the botany. Camille or Caitlin, and that would be great if we could, in the 0 to 50-foot buffer, have only native species planted.
Sure. And you said it was the sweet magnolia and the tiarella?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I looked that up. I didn't know that either.
Find it either.
And then Go says that it's native in some places in New England and Massachusetts, but not in Barnstable County.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
I'll
want me
stick to Barnstable County native plants.
Doing, yeah. Black bug bane also.
Is that what you found?
Another
Sure. Okay. It's a shady spot, so I was trying to be creative, but I'll go back to that.
This was the request from the homeowner. It is an existing garden, and so she was just asking us to
I can see that you would want that area
a little bit of a garden.
But I think you should probably plant, like a service barrier in dogwood there and get a similar feel. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
One other question about the plans, I'm trying to understand the key here. In the proposed view corridor, it looks like you've got the symbol for white oak. Be planted there, is that right?
White oak is planted on the southern side. So go ahead, Stacey.
That schedule is the
I see.
you found an error. I switched. Plant schedule mitigation should say plant schedule foundation. Plant schedule mitigation foundation should say plant schedule mitigation.
Well, actually, the substance of my concern was that white oak's going to get big. It shows it in the view corridor.
I don't see. I think that's Northern Bayberry. The white oak is this big thing.
Yeah, the white oak is all located on the southern property
See how much
line.
bigger it is? My eye glaze was right over it. That's the Bayberry.
Yes, I have bayberry in the view corridor.
Right. In the view corridor is Northern Bayberry with sweet fern and bluebush blueberry.
The shapes look really similar when they're small.
Or I'm sorry, little blue stem.
Okay.
We can label the plants to make that clear. Yeah, it's little blue stem planted in the switch corridor, It's little blue stem planted
Little
within.
blue stems, sweet fern, bayberry. Yeah.
I don't see any oak on here.
It's really big. Do you see how this is the outline of the oak?
Oh, I see.
And so your eye kind of blazes over it because it goes in a thing with those shoulders. Yeah. But I do think the commission should discuss the increase of square footage, and then I know there's other changes that need to be made, but I don't want them to come back before we have that discussion.
Yeah, I think the major issue is the increase in square footage.
Right.
We have had similar projects. I know each project is unique where people wanted to use that kind of area, and since it's already disturbed, we allowed gravel or shell to be put there, so it could be still used without structure. So it's disturb for disturb, not disturb with structure. So I'm still hung up on this extra stuff thing.
I'm not so much worried about personally, the area under the kitchen. It's the area outside the kitchen that just sort of. Am I?
I mean, Barbara has a good solution where, you can add some native stone or shells so that that area is not just sand, but it's not considered structure. And in the regs, it does not prohibit hardscape from prohibited activity in a 0 to 50-foot buffer. So that is just, I think that would be easy to permit. I do have a problem with that shed because now we're adding full-on structure. I mean, the decking, what's below there now, they're using it like a deck. It's currently functioning like they're using it like a deck. They're using that space. You can tell that no vegetation is growing there. They're using that space under the deck. So adding the deck, I don't feel like would be an adverse impact to how the use of the property is already, but that storage area, I think, would be. But I think Barbara's solution meets the regs. So again, if you want to request a variance, please put it in writing. And it's the same reg, Teresa.
Yes.
Did
I ask a couple questions?
Yeah.
So the storage area. Do you have a problem with that it's larger than the kitchen overhang? Or do you have a problem with it even if it's the exact same size as the kitchen overhang? I mean, the kitchen overhang already has a roof. It's already footprint on the ground.
I have and for me, I have a problem with structure. It's really hard to, in the next property owner could expand that, turn it into living space, condition it. It's the structure. I'm not saying that, it's the structure that I have a hard time with. It totally changes the use of that area. So we're going from it being just like an outdoor space where there's critters in and out, and the second you turn it into a proper structure, it, in my opinion, changes the use of that area and has a negative impact on the resource area.
This is a tough one because all of what we're proposing is directly against the house and underneath the structure. So we're not encouraging wildlife habitat in those areas. We're not having any adverse impact on erosion or groundwater supply so this one for me is a little bit tougher. I can understand the concern of the previous project, but I just wonder if the regulations are stated in such a way that it doesn't allow for any flexibility where there's already existing use. It's directly up against the structure. It's been a disturbed area for decades. And, the new owner's desire is just to maybe make it a little bit neater, maybe make it a little more organized and have a place to lock their belongings when they're not being used.
Sometimes what happens space in these situations is a couple of years down the line, they put screens up where they start to make more living space. And the regulations are there for a purpose, so I like to be pretty strict about them. I don't see a lot of flexibility in terms of my opinion on this 50-foot. To me, it's not sacred. We talked about it in terms of revising our regulations. That 50 is sacred. So that's how I feel about it.
Again, it's also that vertical buffer to floodwater, which is, putting making that landward resource area that obviously was not in existence when the structure was built. So we've got that new FEMA, with the new FEMA flood plain, et cetera, but it's outside of the flood zone. So So I guess is there specific, and I will, talk to you, Alicia, about this criteria for variance?
Yeah, it just has to be one sentence, but
Like you have to meet certain criteria, like you're providing, a mitigation that that compensates or, improves the protection of.
the only time that we really need a variance request in writing is just for the prohibited activity, because it has nothing, it's prohibited. It doesn't matter if you positively impact the surrounding area, it's prohibited activity.
Yes, that's where.
So that's where we need the variance request, is pretty much just for that. Other ones, we don't always need it, like, we've had other ones come through where you're increasing the, total disturbed area or whatever. But the regs are clear there that if you're having a positive impact, then you can have the argument, but this is clearly prohibited activity, so we need the variance request in writing.
Okay, understood.
And that's just the only reason why this one, we need it in writing.
Got it. I think I was presuming that since it was previously disturbed area that it was.
I can see, and if this was one that was in the 50 to 100 foot buffer, you would have to come for the same permit, an NOI, but it would, this would be easily approvable, but because we're in the 0 to 50, the homeowners are in a tough spot. I'm not gonna discount them. Yeah.
Yeah, I told them that from the outset, because it's the entire property is within the 0 to 50, and there's no way to change that.
Right, there's no way to change. Okay, so we'd like to request.
I think so, yes, yeah.
So we'd like to go to August 19th.
We'll do the 19th.
All right, sure.
Oh, one thing I wanted to say is you might be able to swap reduce structure to get structure. So like if you reduce some of the decking that you just replaced to get something below it.
You don't think that's gonna fall?
Okay, I just wanted to, I know they just replaced it, but I just wanted to say it so you knew it was an option. Go ahead.
But obviously commensurate with action. I mean, I understand we're not doing it, but for me, if you came and said, we're removing this decking to add this, I would say that's commensurate. I'd be interested in that discussion. Correct.
Okay, so I move that we continue MN 150 Chip Wessett Knowles Drive till August 19th.
Second.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I vote yes.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Town of Wellfleet, 255 Commercial Street, that's 21, house to 114. Noticing intent for work already performed in the emergency certificate to replace approximately 40 piles of repair damage by winter storms. I think we've already discussed it, but I think I should disclose that my husband and I are both owners, and we use the finger piers that those posts, those piles support. But it will not affect my ability to vote for this project that's already been completed.
Is there anybody online for this project?
Gee, Norton had been here before, and so was Nancy Chivetta.
They were here for the dredge. I don't think they knew it was continuing.
Yeah.
So I propose that we accept this as a notice of intent.
I'll second that.
Can I just ask a question about the pilings that were used to replace the heater? How was the wood treated? Because the wording was somewhat ambiguous, whether it was the copper or the CCA.
I don't think I know. I don't think I can answer that.
I think Mike answered that when he was here.
I know they're not creosote, but I'm not sure what they ended up with. I can easily get an answer and email it to you. Yeah, it's after the fact anyways. I was hoping that this application would be a maintenance plan and not just an application for an NOI. I am doing my best to get us one. That's all I can.
Islands?
For the pier, for the marina in general,
Yeah.
like a permit to allow them to do, maybe not all, they probably would have needed an emergency permit to replace all of them, but if they need to replace up to 5 pilings a year, they can do that with just notifying the agent, but we have nothing like, I mean, they do a lot of work over there with that permit, so this was kind of a way to all get on the same page, so I should get just in this permit that we still need to get a maintenance plan. Or at least be working towards one.
So approve it with the condition that
Yeah.
we need a maintenance plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that's what we would be getting, and I'm trying, this is the best we got, so it is what it is.
Okay, did we vote or?
There was moved and seconded, but no vote.
Okay, Michael?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
okay.
Leon?
Yes.
Okay, town. Wellfleet. 255 Northfield Street, notice of intent for maintenance dredging. Existing harbor access channel for northern anchorage. Did I hear that they requested a continuance?
Is it on your agenda?
No.
Until October 21st.
October 21st.
Okay,
So it's on your agenda, the highlighted one.
They requested a continuance to October 21st, at our interagency meeting. NHESP said they're likely gonna need a CMP, similar to last time, so now they have to go through that process. And I suggested that we wait until they go through that process before they're heard.
What's a CMP?
Comprehensive management plan
Yeah.
for the terrapins.
Oh, no, that's, I don't know, natural heritage has to weigh in on this.
Yes, and they thought that they were exempt, so now in the interagency meeting, you know.
Yeah, I mentioned that last time they did this, they had to put in money for mitigation of terrapin take. And there was money that was put into a fund for terrapin conservation and research. And no one seems to know.
Amy at NHESP said that they did get it.
That natural heritage got the money?
Yeah.
Oh.
For research, somewhere like $32,000 or whatever they put in.
Oh, good.
So I did get that answer.
Okay.
So that money went where it was supposed to go.
Excellent. Because Audubon thought that they would be getting some of that and. Anyway, no one knew how it was being used, how it was used.
Voter corrected the terrapin.
No, I think it may have supported a graduate student doing a study or something.
She did say it went to terrapin research, whatever that means. I don't know.
I don't know, but.
I didn't understand these colored codes. I tried to, the legend didn't help because the legend just talks about the depths. And
We can't see the depths very well, but they're in green.
no, I see that, but what is this grayish, this color versus this color? What does it mean?
I don't know. I'll ask them. I'll
Yeah,
send an
below-
email.
Below that depth, there's no dredging. Above that depth, there is dredging.
Oh, so that's why
okay.
it's an irregular boundary.
Right.
Right, and here too, it's, there's a difference in this.
So we have to hold their feet to the fire to make sure they get.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, don't get that, that's there.
Yeah, because I think this is the same thing where in order to get the work done, they're gonna have to close without disturbing the terrapin, they might have to close the marina early, and I don't think they want to do that to get in.
They do it in the winter. Last time they closed, they started September 1st, so all boats had to be out September.
Yeah, so they might have to, I'm not sure, but they're waiting until they get their review from.
Okay.
Nisa, yeah.
All right, next is.
So we have to move to
Yes.
continue till October 21st.
Oh, okay.
So move.
Second.
What do we?
Continuing this.
Yeah.
Even the dredging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vote yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Well, we didn't get any paperwork on the Seaview Road.
Yeah, do you wanna open it and then we'll,
Yes, the next is E. Barry Doyle Jr., 330 Seaview Road, map 24, parcel 22, an enforcement order for unpermitted structure on the coastal bank.
did you email that to them, Jen?
Yes. So
Okay.
there was a photo. Can you put that up?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't see very well what was happening. Did anyone do a site visit there?
Yes. But we could only do it from the public way. Sorry, my mouse isn't.
You want me to do it?
I might get it. We'll find out. Is it in hearing documents, Jim?
It's in, yes, it's in the hearing document.
Here we go.
So do we have to vote on this?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's close enough.
Okay,
Okay, it's
good.
too close. So this, can you see it now?
What is?
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
This is just plywood
Yeah.
with, you know, like stakes. And the house is probably 8 feet from the top of the coastal bank. So this was reported actually by somebody in the planning board. It was like, you know, they're trying to save their house by putting these structures. These go all the way up. And yeah, it's not good. Yeah, they are really hard to see here. But the structures go all the way up and they're trying to use it as, you know, a makeshift coastal engineer structure. It's likely there's some of it on National Seashore property. They've been informed.
Wait, who's doing the work?
The property owner.
Just going out with plywood and
Yeah.
stakes and.
I think he's doing it.
Seaview is, where is that?
That is on the ocean side.
It's between White Crest and Mills.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
On one of those little roads that go.
Okay.
Active avalanche.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do we?
So you can see this is the.
Right.
Oh, it's not showing me. Gosh.
Well,
Okay.
let me move that we approve this enforcement order for these unpermitted structures on the coastal bank. I don't think we need to discuss it.
No. He has to move them within 30 days.
Okay.
Second, Michael. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep, I agree.
All right, that completes our hearings. So let's close the hearings. I move that we close the hearings.
Second, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. and
Yes.
now I'd like to open the business meeting and in attendance are the same people who were at the hearings. So we have a quorum. Do we have any jurisdictional opinions?
Yeah, but I was looking at my site summaries and I noticed your last page didn't print. So it's 41 Sea Oaks Way, Unit 4. There's removal of one tree that's falling from the storm. Very close to the hitting that. So they'll be removing one tree. It's very wooded area, so they're not. So definitely hazardous.
Okay.
Okay.
Questions, concerns? So is there a motion to approve?
So move, Michael.
Second.
Yes.
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 Any
Yes.
others?
No.
Mail discussion, I want to thank Alicia for putting up the caution tape at Long Pond to keep people out of the
Was me.
out of the ecological restoration area.
That was Jen and the AmeriCorps member.
And it's working 4th of July weekend. It was so hot, people will camp.
We should have had it up before. I should have put it. I already have a reminder on my calendar for next year to put it up before.
All right, thank you for that. Any other business discussion? We have some minutes.
I have one.
Yes.
One. I just want to recognize Jen behind the screen here, who has been wonderful with our secretary, and now she just got a new role as the director of community services, and the town is going to be fortunate to have her in that position. But we'll miss you here.
Definitely will.
Here, here.
We will miss you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay,
Well,
we'll see Jen anyway. Absolutely. We'll all be quality to this.
You'll be there on Thursdays for lunch soon enough.
I hope so.
Right. Okay, so last is the meeting minutes from June 17th. Anyone have any corrections? I have nothing on these and I read them.
Yeah, just one. This one's funny, just for you. Community Preservation Coalition.
That's real.
That's real?
Yes,
Yeah,
the coalition.
I thought, how ironic, you're the secretary.
No, that's actually, is that the correction?
Yeah.
All right, then that's not a correction, because that's
Okay.
written.
All right, I'll take it back.
Oh, you're leaving with a bang.
I can't
The
even.
association that coordinates for all of the CPCs.
On the gate?
No, the state.
State, oh, I didn't know it existed. I know that.
Well, we pay dues to it, I think.
We do.
Yeah.
And they give us opinions and they lobby and so on.
So I move that we approve the minutes.
Second, Michael. Yes.
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 Abstain.
Oh, that's right.
I wasn't there.
That's right. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Michael.
All right, how do you vote?
Yes.
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 Yes,
Are you going south?
Leon, are you gonna be back for the next meeting?
I definitely am. I'm coming back Sunday.
Okay, I'm gonna hand the baton back to you.